Okay, good morning, everyone. It is currently 9:36, and I am going to, 10:36. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, President Brown,
Present.
Vice President Flores, Director Getchy,
Present.
Director Paver,
Present.
and Director Roberts.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 2 on the agenda, and that is consent agenda, and that's to approve the minutes from the September 4th, 2025 regular meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So it's a unanimous vote in favor of approving the meeting minutes. Moving on to item 3 on the agenda, is there anyone desiring to discuss or comment on any items directly related to the TFC action items or agenda?
No, ma'am, we have no public speakers.
All right, thank you. Hearing that there are none, we're going to move on to item 4, which is the action items. Action item A is resolution number TCFC 2025-14, and it's to approve inducing the Eastern Park development, a new 2,700 acre planned communities in Southeast Austin and other matters in connection therewith.
Yes, ma'am. So we're excited to work with our new friend, John Gutman, you approved the previous development a couple months back, and he's back with us to talk about a new project called Eastern Park. If you could go ahead and advance the slide, Kevin. There's a presentation that has been prepared. Actually, I'm going to allow John to walk through this with you all, if he's so inclined. So we'll let, if you all will come to the front, introduce yourselves, and we'll proceed with the presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm John Gutman with Gutman Development Partners, and I'm here with Tom, and I'm going to mispronounce your last
Tom Etheridge.
With Wilson Capital. This Easton Park is a Wilson Capital project, and I'm going to let Tom tell you all about it. And if we want to start, is this the shorter presentation that we provided? Okay. So.
Do you care if I stand?
Not a problem.
Leisure. Yeah, and I'm here at your leisure, so I know your time is valuable, so I'm going to give a very high level. A lot of this stuff is already in your package.
I might ask if you could just move one of those microphones a little closer to you, just to make sure you're on. But you can stand.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to make sure I can see.
Okay.
So interrupt me. I'll be really quick, and then if you want me to get into more detail, I will, but I want to be respectful of your time.
But you can stand. You
Okay.
can. You can
All
just,
right.
you get to.
It'll pick up.
You don't have to take it with you.
Yeah.
Just point it towards you. You're good.
Okay, this is just a rendering. Let's just go through the slide deck. There should be one that starts with a sponsorship page.
And what intersections are there in there? Can you kind of give a...
These are pictures that are kind of, renderings representative of what the project would look like. It's not specifically, but it is very, very close to what the exteriors and what the project will look like.
And Tom, did you happen to bring any physical copy?
I do have a physical
That might
copy,
be that, because I think this
but I only
is
just
the
have
render-
one copy. They don't have
Is
the...
that just,
This is just supposed to be the rendering package.
There's not a-
we have both. We have them both. I'm sorry.
There's a short, it's like 9 pages.
Yeah,
slide
we
deck.
have them both. I think we just pulled up the...
But these are nice. I mean, it gives you a sense for what it looks like. HLR, I think, will be the architect that we'll use.
Yeah. We'll quickly go through these, and then while we're uploading that one.
Where in Easton Park is this located?
It's right off William Cannon, pretty close to 183, so it's kind of on the, I would call it the northeast portion of the 2,700 acres. You know, Easton Park is predominantly south of 183, south of William Cannon, and then just west of 183.
Okay.
So it's about 8 or 10 minutes from Bergstrom, so from, I still call it Bergstrom, from Austin Airport, ABIA.
Yeah.
How far past down, past the, what's that intersection where the VA is and Onion Creek? How far past that is that?
Yeah, I don't know which one he's talking about. There's a new HEB, there's others.
Okay.
McKinney Falls
Yeah,
Parkway,
that's
which is a little
what-
bit to the west, and that's where the new HEB is.
Yeah,
And
I know where
then
that
Easton
is.
Park is the master plan.
Yeah.
I can kind of go from memory
Yeah,
on this.
I
Let me
would
just
say
tell you
it's-
a little bit about, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say so the property sits kind of in between, I guess, McKinney Falls Parkway and 183 in the heart of Easton Park. And so it's along William Cannon, again, that new HEB going in McKinney Falls Parkway and William Cannon, less than a mile away from the property. It sits in great location to the elementary school there, walkable. And then within Easton Park, there's like, I think, like
Okay.
35 different, or 3,000.
You mean homes?
No, thousands of parks and trails and stuff.
It's about 350 acres dedicated to parks and trails. And Brookfield is a very, very, very incredible. They're one of the largest, most well-capitalized master plan developers, so it's a very high-quality development. Wilson Capital, let me tell you a little bit about, oh, here
Did
we
we
are.
get it, the right
Great.
presentation?
Okay,
Okay.
just slide through, go to the next one. So a little bit about Wilson Capital and affiliated companies. Wilson Capital is a privately owned company, multi-generational. It's led by the oldest son of the founder. The founder was Clark Wilson. Some people may know of Clark Wilson Homes. He's been a home builder in Austin for 35, 40 years. He and his brothers grew up in Amarillo. They came to Austin to go to the University of Texas. Doyle Wilson was in the real estate business, had Doyle Wilson Homes. Clark Wilson had Clark Wilson Builders. And Ralph Wilson had Wilson Roofing, which is one of the most well-respected residential roofing companies in Austin for many years. Taylor is the oldest son of Clark. He now runs the family business. The business is a multifamily development company, which is Wilson Capital. It's also Clark Wilson Builders, which is the in-house construction company that builds homes as well as apartments. And then we'll have a single family, a custom home division that does a few homes too. And we build suburban apartments. So there's Taylor's experience. He's been running the company for about 8 or 10 years. I've known Taylor since he was in his 20s, his mid-30s now. I knew Clark for 35 years. Back when I was a banker at Guaranty Bank, I worked for Temple Inland for nearly 30 years. I spent about half of that with Four Star and was head of operations and then ran the multifamily development business. And I joined Wilson Capital about 2.5 years ago to help them kind of leverage growth going forward. Michael Lee is one of our senior development managers. He'll be in charge of this. He has about 10 years as a licensed engineer with Kimley Horn, and now he's our in-house development manager. The next slide, you'll see Clark Wilson on the left. He still comes in. He's more of an advisory role, but he still is active. We still do some large land developments. We have one called Blue Sky down in Lockhart that just got kicked off. That'll have several thousand homes eventually, and we're looking at another one in Kyle. Christy Sanchez has had a number of stints with large multifamily companies, both on the management side as well as asset management. She's our in-house head of asset management. So she manages the Gray Stars or the Avenue 5s or the Kairos, whoever it is, whoever's doing the on-site property management, she manages them. And then Say is a long-standing head of construction at Clark Wilson Builders, so he's the guy that runs the construction group. Next, please. You've got all this information, 306 units, just a little under 900 average size. We bought the land a few months ago, first quarter of this year, we bought the site. We plan to start in probably March, April, May is when we expect. We've been funding the design documents, but that's when we think it'll be ready to start. Typical 12 to 13, 14 months to deliver first units. Cost basis is really important to us. I commend you for what you do for housing affordability. I spent 4 years as a council member in Smithville. Learned during that time how important it is to recognize that not everybody is in that top tier, that housing is a really, really critical factor, as is jobs. I'm very much interested in workforce housing and skilled trades training. So this is a passion for us, is to try to develop housing that's modestly priced, but that also can attract capital. Because you have to have both. You have to be able to provide enough of a return to get capital to come and fund it. And we think this does a good job of balancing that. Next, please. Here's the map. You can see Bergstrom, or the airport is up in the upper right. They're at 71 and 183. You're about 10 or 15 minutes from downtown Austin on a good day. Traffic is getting worse, maybe not every time. This is the site. You can see its proximity to 183. You can see the future daycare. It's walk to elementary school behind. There's the HEB site. There's Jimmy Clay Kaiser Golf Course. It's a really good location, relatively close to Austin. Next, please.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you go back to that
Uh-huh.
real quick? So, I see the Eastern Park location. Is this your property that straddles both sides of William Cannon?
No.
Where's your property?
Right here and right here.
Right.
It's these two. We have a street that goes through. We have a portion of the units on this side,
Okay.
but it all fronts on William Cannon.
Okay, got it.
So it's all on the south side of William Cannon.
Oh, I see. Okay. So running towards 183.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a linear,
Yeah.
that's
Got it.
exactly right.
Okay.
Okay, next. Strategic location, the three biggest employers and job drivers is the airport, Tesla, and South Park Meadows. We'll talk a little bit about the airport and what it has planned. You probably already know, but some pretty significant numbers already in place at the airport, and then a $4 billion expansion kind of underway. So when you look at where income levels are and where the need for workforce housing is, this area really checks a lot of boxes in a pretty strong way. Brookfield, we talked about, they're a very, very high quality master plan developer, so the community is very, very well done and has substantial capital behind it to ensure that it's well maintained and it's successful. A lot of parks around the corner to the elementary school, lots of services, retail and daycare and all the typical services. It's pretty much a close-in suburban with good infill support around it. And then the new HEB up the street.
What's that building up at the top there?
This one not appeared, I think that's a picture of Tesla.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
Tesla
okay.
on
Okay, well, they hadn't wrapped it around yet.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the side, yeah, it's the glass house and all that.
Okay.
All right. This is just a little more detail about those three major employers. 74,000 people work directly or indirectly at the airport. It's going through a pretty substantial expansion. We read almost every week about an airline. I think Southwest most recently expects Austin to be its largest hub. So we continue to expect really strong growth from the airport, and then all of the businesses that are kind of the feed offs and feed with the airport, all the distribution and logistic companies. South Park Meadows, not very far away, I guess it's the second largest. I didn't know that. I know it's large, runs all along I-35. The Endeavor guys built several phases of that development. Pretty much every major retailer you can think of has a presence over there. And then Tesla, even though it's had some recent layoffs in the news, clearly Elon Musk and those companies have made a substantial investment in the eastern part of Travis County and the western part of Bastrop County and along the tollway. So, there's expectations that footprint will grow, all of those companies, Boring, all of the ones that he has there in addition to Tesla, to feed this area. Next, please. Community benefits, obviously we're here because we think we need to deliver workforce housing, so we think that's certainly a benefit. It does do it with a partnership with you. It provides the ability to attract private capital, which you need. This is a $63 million project total. We'll probably need to raise $25 million, 40% equity, and then go get a construction loan. So being able to attract that capital is important to have this partnership, as well as be sensitive to the price point, the all-in cost, which is just about $200,000 a door. And then, one of the things we often don't think about is when you do developments like this, we're not only serving the needs of the people that will be residents there, but we're contributing to the broader economic development of the area and the community, which kind of self-serves. It feeds back in a stronger overall economy, then helps the residents and helps the project as well. So we think that's a community benefit as well. Next, please. That's it. So, and there's a lot more detail with numbers and everything in your bigger package, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Ordinarily, we always have the same question, which is what's the mix of affordability that you guys have in the project?
So it's, the affordability mix is we have 20% at 60% and 30% at 80% and then 50% of market.
Okay. So that's kind of our standard boilerplate affordability. 2,700 acres is the entire project?
Of Brookfield, of the master plan
Okay.
community. Ours is just one site in there.
One
Yeah.
site.
I think we're 22 acres total. I think.
Yeah.
I was just giving you a sense for how big the master plan is for all of Brookfield. And I think they've got ultimately 12,000 homes that build out And I think they're at 2,000 today. So there's a lot of growth coming to this large 2,700 acres in and around.
Should our resolution read out at 2,700 acres, or should it read out for this project?
Yeah, it is okay the way it is. I do realize that it was afterwards that we were, the intent of the inducing Easton Park is what's most important. It is part of a larger development that is 2,700 acres, but it's not specific saying that we're developing that 2,700.
Yeah.
So we are okay.
6 units.
We are okay. When we do our final resolution for the approval of the term sheet, we will clarify more specifically the development and what's being approved.
I think it's a good project in a good area.
Thank you. We do too.
Any other questions?
So Summer is on the line if you have questions. It does meet our stated terms, but I'm gonna,
Just ask her if she have any input.
sure.
Summer, I don't know if you heard that, but anything you want to add to this?
I did. Thank you. I'm going to turn down my volume because I have a little bit of feedback going on and I won't be able to hear myself think. So this project is our typical terms. As I think was mentioned earlier, the affordability levels are our typical 20% at 60% and 30% at 80% AMI. That is, we have stuck with those terms on all of your developments at your request. They are going to be paying the $250,000 closing fee if this deal proceeds to close, $1,500 per unit as a share of the sales tax savings for you guys bringing about the sales tax exemption. We're also getting 15% of their developer fee. And then the annual rent payments, which will start once the project is constructed and stabilized, are at approximately $130,000, and those will increase annually at 3%. And finally, and this was a discussion that we had, I believe at the last meeting, our term now for the capital event rent, which is what's paid when there is a sale of the project, is the greater of 15% of the profits or the net proceeds, or 2% of the gross sales price for the first sale, and then 2% of the gross sales price for any sales thereafter. So those are your typical terms. We did have the tweak on the first sale to the greater of based on some of our prior deals. So again, our typical standard terms, we didn't have any deviations here. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any other questions, comments? And I will say that we did, Director Perez and I did meet with Patrick and Attorney Summers to review this project as well. So we didn't, I think any concerns that we had, they've addressed. So is there a motion to approve resolution number TCFC 2025-14?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion is passed.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for what y'all do.
We look forward to
Yeah,
this
us too.
project. Great location. All right, moving on to item number 5 on the agenda, and this is discussion items. And discussion item A is to update on best practices relating to affordable housing development, and I think that Summer touched on some of this, but we'll let her just go through this again, just to make sure that we all understand.
Yeah, so, I know you've seen a bunch of information in the news about some of the activities going on with other housing authorities related to affordable housing development. And speaking with the chair, we thought it best to maybe allow Summer to provide some context related to what you all have seen and heard and what that looks like in comparison to what we're doing here, to give you some reassurance about where we are and what we're doing in our practices. So, Summer, if you would.
Yes. So I think this was kind of born out of the articles that have come out about mainly Corpus Christi Housing Authority on some transactions that they approved they had some issues with their Open Meetings Act, and I think their posting and things like that. But aside from that, the city council, the Corpus Christi City Council, appeared to be surprised and not particularly happy about the transactions that they were engaging in. And I think that there's a couple of distinctions that we should make between the practices of your organization and the practices of Corpus Christi. And then I think there are some things just to keep in mind moving forward, because this landscape has gotten a little more prickly and a little more difficult in the last few years because of the acts of some, we'll say, bad actors and some perceived abuses. So I think the biggest difference between what you guys are doing and what Corpus Christi did, there's two differences. So number one is that they were focusing on the acquisition of existing projects. Not that there's anything wrong with that. In fact, that can be a great way to preserve and rehabilitate housing and affordable housing, or inject affordable housing on projects that otherwise don't have affordability requirements. I think it does become more politically charged because you are removing property that is currently paying significant taxes to those jurisdictions. And so that's something that we always have to take into account. And of course, we look at the potential future taxes. Obviously, you guys are sharing in a portion of the property tax savings as your annual rent payment. And you're also requiring some increased affordability on your projects, which obviously is a community benefit in exchange for that property tax exemption. So you guys have mostly focused on new construction, and that tends to be, in my experience, a little bit of an easier hill to crest, because these projects most of them will not happen but for your involvement, right? So even just adding to the housing supply, it helps housing affordability, even if it's market rate housing, which obviously is not what you're doing. But so that's one of the things that's different. The other thing that's different is that the statute that they were operating under, which is something that you guys could do, but it's something that Jim Plummer felt very strongly about, and I share the same feeling, is that by utilizing Chapter 392, which is the Housing Authority statute, many housing authorities are circumventing the changes that were made to Chapter 303, which is the Public Facility Corporation statute. So what Corpus Christi did was they were entering into it as a housing authority versus as their PFC. And by doing so, they were not required to, for example, go to the Corpus Christi City Council for approval. You guys, because you're doing deals under Chapter 303, we have to go to the Commissioner's Court. So you're getting live feedback from your commissioners. You have your elected leaders are involved in these conversations, and they're aware of what you're doing versus what was happening in Corpus Christi under 392. Of course, sometimes there are projects that it makes sense to do under 392 because of there are some requirements, for example, like on acquisitions, that can make it more difficult. But I think that if you were to do those, we would want to just continue those conversations with your elected leaders and make sure that we're not perceived as doing something, clandestinely or behind closed doors. So I think that's something really important to think about. But I honestly believe that had they kind of gotten in front of it, they would have either gotten good feedback and figured out how they could have repositioned their projects. Maybe the community would have been in favor had they had different affordability mixes, or had there been rehabilitation requirements, or had they understood what was going on. They could have gotten in front of that. Obviously, you guys are already doing that. You're already engaged in what I believe are best practices. And especially with your increased affordability, you're asking for more than what the statute requires. And I think that is a good factor that would help prevent you from ending up in that same position. And then I think going forward, and we talk about this, I think, every meeting, we just talked about it here, is keeping your terms uniform, right? So that we're not perceived as just trying to get a deal done or just, playing favorites with the developer. Obviously, there are certain situations in which it could be appropriate to modify your terms. And we've had some discussions about that, but I think that we, again, have to kind of show our work and talk about, okay, well, if we're going to accept less affordability in a project, or we're going to accept a lower fee, we have to explain why, and there needs to be a good justification for that. And again, I think communication with elected leaders and with the community about why that project is needed and why those concessions were made. So those are just kind of my observations on this. And I work across the state and see lots of different folks engaging in lots of different practices. I think you guys are a beacon of good practice, and your real estate committee, we have great conversations about the projects. You guys ask very good questions. Patrick is doing an awesome job of kind of bird dogging which projects need to move forward and how. And so I really believe you guys are doing a good job. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, I'm always available to talk about those.
Great. I'm grateful to hear from you, because when I saw the news coverage and it just kept saying that all the deals had minimal community minimal advantage to the community. And I was like, what does that mean? I want more information, because I want to make sure that we're not providing minimal advantage to the community. But I'm heartened to hear that we're getting live feedback from the Commissioner's Court. So it's not like anything is a surprise on our term sheets. And it sounds like that's what was going on in Corpus Christi. So it's good to draw, from my understanding, to be able to draw that line. So thank you for that. I'm really appreciative of your feedback today.
Yeah, I was in Corpus Christi when that broke back in, what was it, April or May?
Something like that.
And it was wild. But yeah, I think right now we're doing everything that we can to make it right, Cheryl. And it's bird dogging us pretty hard.
No. I think it's great feedback, and I think that this is something that we've actually strived for, and something that I've been cognizant of as well, is not really wanting to be an organization where someone has gone to, HACA and they couldn't get through with HACA, and they feel that, or strategic or whatever, and then they come to us and say, oh, well, they'll let us do it. Right? And I think that we've really put some provisions in place to where, there's a level of expectancy from the people that come to us that, they can't just offer us anything and we take it. So, and I just think that, as with anything, if you develop a consistent policy and stick with that policy, and I understand that sometimes there are some exceptions, right? But they have to really be distinguishing exceptions that we're making, so that it's clear, so someone doesn't feel, and I've seen evidence of that before, where someone just says, okay, well, you gave this to XYZ, I want the same thing, right? And so I just think that having these measurements in place, that people know when they come to us that they can't just offer us anything and we take it. I think that's so important to us, because we want a reputation of respect. And I really commend both of you, Patrick, you and Summer, for the work that you're doing to make sure that these developers know that we're no pushovers, and they have to bring something to the table that is a benefit to our organization and the people and the communities that we serve. So thank you.
Do you see any potential changes in the legislature based on what's happening there?
Yes, I do. I believe that Chapter 392 will be amended in the next legislative session to implement many of the changes that were done to Chapter 303 2 years ago, and potentially even some of the changes that were implemented this year in Chapter 394. Those changes were not great changes. Many of them are causing some problems with being able to get deals financed. That will not hopefully affect you guys too much, because again, we use your main vehicle is the Travis County Facilities Corporation, not the Housing Authority of Travis County. We could see Chapter 303 being amended as well. I know there has been some talk about that amongst certain advocacy groups, but we're hopeful that we're going to do a lot of advocacy work from our side, from the perspective of the folks who are participating in the partnerships and involved in the financial underwriting and who understand how to get these deals on the ground. We're going to be doing some work in the interim. So between now and the 90th legislative session, I work a lot with TAP, the Texas Affiliation of Affordable Housing Providers, and then TALFA, the Texas Association of Local Housing Finance Agencies. Both of those groups are going to be working because what we need to do is we need for folks to understand what you guys do and to tell the success stories. So I think you guys have great stories. I have clients here in San Antonio that also have done some really great things. So we're hoping to kind of promote that throughout the session, because it is hard for folks to understand. This affordable housing is really a nuanced area of the law, and the financing and everything behind it gets very complicated very fast. So it's easy for someone to say like what happened with the traveling HFCs and what's happened in Corpus Christi. Everybody's just pulling projects off the tax rolls. They're giving developers a payday. They're handing out tax exemptions like candy and not getting any public benefit. And I think, to the point that was made earlier about saying minimal public benefit, but they're not actually, I assume when you read that they didn't say what the benefit was, right? And so it's easy for someone to make a conclusory statement like that without actually backing it up. And we've seen that in the news before. Not that there haven't been bad actors, right? I think that the entire industry recognizes that and absolutely feels that there's a need to fix it. But it's just that it needs to get fixed in the right way so that we can continue doing good work. And so shining a spotlight on organizations that are doing things the right way is going to be a goal of ours throughout the next 15 months or so. So we may call on you guys to help us with that, right? To work with some of your elected officials at the state level and trying to educate them and let them know the good work that y'all are doing.
Yeah, maybe you could help draft something, and as it gets closer, and we can work to get that through the board. Okay.
You made such a good point, Summer, and I think this board does a really good job of keeping in mind, and it's important to always reiterate that the tax exemption savings is huge. Like, it is a very powerful tool, and I think it can't be underestimated, the power of that tool. And you're right. I mean, the truth of the matter is that's the plain fact. It takes money off the tax rolls that goes, to some level, puts a burden on everyone else, but the exchange for that is a community benefit. It's part of our social contract. And that community benefit, I think it's just very fortuitous that we're having this discussion today, because it comes down to Mr. Turner. Some of these projects, Bowie, are more affordable housing projects, and we're able to have really fantastic success stories. So it feels like a full circle moment.
Great. All right, any other comments before we move on? Thank you, Summer.
Thanks, Summer.
Thank you.
All right, moving on
Thank
to
y'all.
item number, the regular agenda, item A, financial report as of August 31st, 2025.
Super, you waited the whole meeting just for this one report.
I'm sorry.
Good morning. So this report that is going to pull is, we are 8 months into the year. This report is 8 months into the year, but to date we are 9 months into the year. I had to revise the projections because another two projects got deferred to 2026. The closing got deferred to 2026. So I started off the budget with 5.5, a projection of 5.5 million. Now the projection is down to 2.2 million because a lot of the projects got deferred to 2026. And to date, or through the end of August, we have collected 1.2 million. I hope to collect another 1 million. A couple of projects is Bergstrom is being sold, so I assume we can get that money by the end of the year. McKinney Falls is also, their construction is done, so some funds are pending. And I got Preserve at Mason Creek as being going to be closed by the end of the year. So those are three big items, three big projects that we might collect some funds by the end of the year. So we are also in the midst of doing the budget for 2026. The properties and the central office is funded by TCFC. Last year, I think 2.7 million came out of TCFC, about $1.3 million to fund the properties, to fund their capital improvements and their deficits. And the other portion would be to cover central office overhead, because none of our programs generate none of the federal programs generate funds other than paying for direct expenses. So to date we have $6.9 million in the bank.
Super, if I may, Madam Chair, what's caused the delay to things to move into next year? Is there, can you what determined that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I mean, this uncertainty with the market, I mean, I know it sounds like a broken record, but I mean, it truly is the same issue. So folks are trying to get creative about that. They're looking at other ways of financing the deals, or at least getting some sort of bridge loan of sorts. So same sort of thing. I mean, at one point, development activity and permitting was something that would delay deals, but in almost every case, it has to do with the financing. And so most of the projects haven't been taken off the table. However, they've just been, pushed to the right.
Yeah.
Any other discussion, comments?
Look like we're losing quorum.
Yeah, no, we still
we
have
still
quorum.
I know.
We still have quorum.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Subra. I'd like to, we'll see what the implications are for us in 2026 in our budget with the delays that we're getting in these rollouts. So, all right, is there a reason to go into executive session?
No, but I did have a question. Is there, with the way things are being cut in Washington, have we gotten anything, any tea leaves that are hanging out there, Patrick?
You don't mean the budget shutdown or anything?
No, we're not.
Yeah, it's money
we're
still.
not
We
so-
still have some money. Fortunately, money gets forwarded usually in advance. No, I mean, there's a proposed budgets. Most of it has to do, at least from right now, just who oversees the money. So a lot of movement has been toward like the states running the HCV program in terms of the allocation, things like that, but no specific cuts other than what we had already been talking about. Every housing authority, and we all are going through the strategic planning process, right? And talking about what that means. Everyone's saying, hey, we need to diversify our funding sources, right? And so obviously this being it for us primarily, we just have to continue to try to do good work and be resourceful, just in light of what that might look like. But no immediate implications, no. Nothing has changed per se in
After 9 months.
recent weeks.
Well, I'm just saying, after 9 months, there's cuts coming. We just don't know where and when.
That's,
So, well, thank you. I apologize.
No problem, no problem. It's good discussion. All right, is there, given that there's no request for an executive session, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at 11:16 a.m.?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.